Welcome to the all-new HoopNova, your ultimate source for everything basketball.
We all have to kind of assess where we're at. Decisions either way will be made, and we'll get to the rest of what the future looks like.
Seriously, between Steph, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, and LeBron, they'd have to get a lot of depends because all those geezers on the same team.
The NBA offseason has completely reshaped the league. Free agency opened just a couple of weeks ago, and nearly every contender made an aggressive move to improve its championship chances. Superstars changed teams, franchises took massive risks, and front offices pushed all their chips to the center of the table, while the rest of the league made headlines with blockbuster moves. One team surprisingly watched almost everything happen from the sidelines: the Golden State Warriors, for a franchise built around one of the greatest players in basketball history. This offseason was supposed to be different. The Warriors entered the summer knowing that Stephen Curry's championship window was becoming smaller with every passing season. Instead of surrounding him with another superstar, they finished free agency without adding a single major outside player. Despite months of rumors and countless reports connecting them to several elite names, Golden State walked away empty-handed. That doesn't mean the Warriors weren't trying. In fact, they were one of the most aggressive teams behind the scenes. The front office explored nearly every possible superstar available on the market, hoping to build one final championship-caliber roster around Curry. Draymond Green was reportedly willing to sacrifice significant money if it meant creating enough financial flexibility to land another star. The organization understood exactly what was at stake, and they were prepared to take enormous risks. Unfortunately, none of those plans became reality. Now the Warriors find themselves entering another season with an aging core, limited financial flexibility, very few valuable draft assets, and growing pressure to maximize what could be the final years of one of the NBA's greatest dynasties. Their biggest victory this offseason may have simply been convincing head coach Steve Kerr to continue leading the team. After years of success together, Kerr appears committed to finishing this journey alongside Curry, Green, and the remaining championship core. But the real concern isn't just this season. The biggest challenge could arrive next summer, when several important decisions will determine the future of the franchise. If Golden State cannot compete for another championship soon, the organization could be forced to consider difficult choices that once seemed impossible. The dynasty that dominated the NBA for nearly a decade may finally be approaching its final chapter. That reality becomes even more serious when you look at Stephen Curry himself. Even at this stage of his career, Curry continues to perform like one of the league's elite superstars. While most players begin slowing down during their late 30s, Curry has remained remarkably productive, consistently carrying Golden State's offense with his shooting, leadership, and unmatched ability to change games from anywhere on the court. His production remains extraordinary, especially considering the physical demands of playing at the highest level for so many years. The Warriors know players like Curry come around only once in a generation. Everything inside the organization points toward him spending his entire career in Golden State. That kind of loyalty has become increasingly rare in today's NBA. Fans witnessed similar stories with legendary franchise icons who finished their careers wearing only one jersey, and the Warriors hope Curry joins that exclusive group. However, loyalty alone doesn't win championships. The front office also has the responsibility of giving its superstar a realistic opportunity to compete for another title. That urgency shaped nearly every decision the Warriors made over the past year. Back in February of 2025, Golden State appeared to make exactly the move they needed. At the time, the team was hovering around 5-0 and struggling to establish itself as a legitimate contender. Their offense lacked consistency, and their championship hopes were beginning to fade. Then General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. made one of the boldest trades of the season. Golden State sent multiple players and future assets to Miami in exchange for Jimmy Butler. Shortly after arriving, Butler committed to the Warriors with a new contract, signaling that both sides believed they could chase another championship together. Interestingly, Butler wasn't the franchise's original target. Before completing their trade, the Warriors reportedly explored the possibility of bringing Kevin Durant back to Golden State. That reunion never materialized, forcing the organization to pivot toward Butler instead. Initially, the gamble looked brilliant. The Warriors immediately transformed into one of the NBA's hottest teams. Butler brought toughness, defensive intensity, and playoff experience that perfectly complemented Curry and Green. Golden State's defense improved dramatically, while their chemistry seemed to develop almost overnight whenever Curry, Butler, and Green shared the floor together. The Warriors played like one of the league's elite teams. They defended at an extremely high level, closed games with confidence, and once again looked capable of competing with anyone that momentum carried into the playoffs. Golden State battled through a difficult first-round matchup, proving that experience still mattered when the games became more physical. The veteran core showed resilience under pressure and advanced to the second round with renewed confidence. Then everything changed. Stephen Curry suffered a hamstring injury, and almost instantly, the Warriors' championship hopes disappeared. Without their offensive engine, the entire system fell apart. The same team that looked dangerous only days earlier suddenly struggled to generate offense, and their playoff run came to an abrupt end. That injury exposed the biggest weakness facing Golden State when everyone is healthy. The Warriors remain one of the NBA's most dangerous teams. Their championship experience, defensive intelligence, and superstar talent still give them a chance against anyone. But when one key veteran goes down, everything changes. The roster no longer has enough depth to survive extended injuries, especially when those injuries involve Curry. As the team's core continues getting older, maintaining health becomes an even greater challenge. The following season began with renewed optimism. A full year of chemistry between Curry, Butler, and Green created genuine excitement throughout the organization. Golden State opened the season strongly and looked capable of climbing the Western Conference standings. During one impressive stretch, they won consistently on both ends of the floor, playing disciplined basketball and defending at an elite level for a while. Everything appeared to be falling into place. The Warriors weren't necessarily trying to dominate the regular season. Instead, their focus was building a team capable of peaking when the playoffs arrived. Their veteran leadership, postseason experience, and defensive identity suggested they could become a dangerous opponent once the games mattered most. But just as momentum started building, injuries once again interrupted the season. History repeated itself. Instead of taking another step toward championship contention, Golden State found itself asking the same difficult questions. Could this aging core stay healthy long enough to make one final title run? Would another superstar eventually join Curry? Or was the dynasty finally approaching its inevitable conclusion? Those questions now define everything surrounding the Warriors. As another season approaches, Golden State still possesses one of basketball's greatest players and a championship-winning culture. But time is no longer on their side. Every season matters. Every injury carries greater consequences. Every missed opportunity becomes more expensive. The Warriors still believe they have one more championship run left. Now, they have to prove it before the clock finally runs out.
Jimmy's injury just changed everything.
Jimmy Butler's injury completely changed the Warriors' season, just as Golden State looked ready to compete. Butler suffered a devastating ACL tear that instantly ended the team's championship hopes. Although he appeared in only 38 games, he remained one of the Warriors' most impactful players, consistently delivering strong scoring, playmaking, and leadership whenever he stepped on the court. Unfortunately, the bad news didn't stop there. Less than 2 weeks after Butler's injury, Stephen Curry went down with a knee injury that forced him to miss nearly a month of action. Soon after, promising young guard Moses Moody also suffered a season-ending injury, leaving head coach Steve Kerr with almost no consistency in his rotation. Throughout the year, Kerr was forced to experiment with dozens of different starting lineups as injuries continued to pile up. The results were disastrous. After Butler was sidelined, Golden State struggled to find any momentum, finishing the remainder of the season with one of the league's worst records. A roster featuring multiple future Hall of Famers suddenly looked ordinary, proving just how dependent the team had become on the health of its veteran stars. The Warriors barely reached a play-in tournament, where Stephen Curry reminded everyone of his greatness by delivering a brilliant performance to keep their hopes alive. However, with injuries and fatigue catching up to the roster, Golden State couldn't sustain its momentum. In the decisive elimination game, the offense stalled. Curry was limited by tough defense, and the Warriors' season came to a disappointing end instead of beginning a full rebuild. The organization chose a different path. The first major surprise came when Draymond Green voluntarily declined his guaranteed player option, signaling that he was willing to sacrifice financially if it meant giving the Warriors another chance to chase a championship.
I've been in one place for 14 years. It's more of a family to me than anything. Bringing my number down has allowed us to explore a little bit more.
According to reports, Golden State had far bigger ambitions than simply improving its roster. The Warriors were reportedly exploring ways to create enough financial flexibility to pursue another superstar and maximize Stephen Curry's remaining championship window. One ambitious scenario involved using cap space, expiring contracts, and future draft assets to reshape the roster around Curry. The vision was to build a star-studded lineup capable of immediately competing for another NBA title. Curry himself was also rumored to be involved in recruiting efforts, showing just how determined the organization was to make one final all-in push before the dynasty's championship window finally closed.
Hopefully, raise our floor, our competitiveness this year. There's good golf in the Bay. We're an organization that's been there. He knows that.
For more than a decade, the Golden State Warriors have been the standard of excellence in the NBA. 4 championships, countless playoff battles, and a style of basketball that completely changed the league turned this franchise into one of the greatest dynasties in sports history. At the center of it all stood Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, but today, the Warriors find themselves in unfamiliar territory. Instead of celebrating another title run or entering the season as overwhelming favorites, Golden State is facing a reality that every dynasty eventually encounters. Time is running out. This offseason was supposed to be the moment that extended the Warriors' championship window. Around the NBA, contenders were making aggressive moves, strengthening their rosters, and preparing for another battle in the Western Conference. Every front office understood that standing still wasn't an option. The Warriors knew it too. Reports throughout the offseason connected Golden State to several blockbuster possibilities. The front office explored every avenue to surround Stephen Curry with another elite star before it was too late. They understood that Curry continues to perform like an all-NBA player, but they also knew he couldn't carry the franchise forever. The organization wasn't looking for small improvements. They wanted another superstar behind the scenes. Golden State reportedly explored multiple trade scenarios, evaluated available veterans, and searched for ways to create financial flexibility. The message inside the organization was clear. If there was even a small chance to build one more championship team around Stephen Curry, they were willing to take it. Unfortunately, basketball doesn't always reward ambition, one by one. The Warriors watched their biggest opportunities disappear. Some stars never became available. Others reportedly had different destinations in mind. Trade conversations faded before they gained momentum, and free agency slowly passed by without Golden State making the franchise-changing move many fans expected. As the dust settled, the Warriors were left with almost the same questions they entered the summer with. Can this aging core compete with younger, faster, and deeper teams? Can Stephen Curry continue playing at an MVP level deep into his late 30s? And perhaps the biggest question of all, is there enough time left to make one final championship run? Those questions became even more complicated because of what happened last season. Everything actually started with hope after making significant roster changes. The Warriors looked like a team capable of returning to championship contention. The chemistry between the veterans improved, the defense looked stronger, and there were stretches where Golden State resembled the dominant teams that terrified opponents for years. For a while, it seemed like the gamble had worked. Stephen Curry continued doing what only he can do, stretching defenses with impossible three-pointers while creating opportunities for everyone around him. His leadership remained unquestioned, and every night he reminded basketball fans why he's still one of the league's biggest superstars. The supporting cast also began finding its rhythm. Veteran experience, improved defensive intensity, and playoff-tested leadership gave Warriors fans genuine reasons to believe another deep postseason run was possible. Then everything changed. Injuries began piling up. One key player after another found themselves on the injury report, forcing head coach Steve Kerr to constantly shuffle rotations and experiment with different lineups. Chemistry became difficult to maintain because the team rarely had its full roster available at the same time. The biggest blow came when one of Golden State's most important veterans suffered a devastating knee injury. Losing a player of that caliber changed everything. Not only did the Warriors lose an elite two-way presence, but they also lost leadership, toughness, and someone capable of taking pressure off Stephen Curry during crucial moments. As if that wasn't enough, more injuries followed. Curry himself missed significant time after dealing with his own physical setbacks, leaving Golden State without its offensive engine. Every game became harder. The offense slowed down. The defense struggled to maintain consistency, and the confidence that had existed earlier in the season slowly disappeared. Steve Kerr faced an impossible challenge, with different players entering and leaving the lineup almost every week. Building consistency became nearly impossible. Every victory required extraordinary effort, while every loss increased the pressure surrounding the franchise. By the second half of the season, the Warriors were no longer fighting for player positioning. They were simply trying to survive. Even with multiple future Hall of Famers on the roster, Golden State struggled to find momentum. The lack of continuity exposed just how dependent the team had become on the health of its aging stars. That's the difficult truth facing the Warriors today. When everyone is healthy, they still have the talent and experience to compete with almost anyone in the NBA. But keeping everyone healthy has become the biggest challenge of all. Age isn't just a number in professional basketball. Recovery takes longer. Minor injuries become major concerns, and every additional season increases the physical toll on veteran players. For Golden State, that reality has become impossible to ignore. The Western Conference isn't waiting for them. Young contenders continue improving every year. Teams are getting faster, deeper, and more athletic, while the Warriors are trying to preserve their championship core. The rest of the league is preparing for the future. That's what makes this moment so important. The franchise isn't simply trying to win another championship, they're trying to extend one of the greatest dynasties basketball has ever seen before the window finally closes forever. And unfortunately for Warriors fans, the hardest decisions may still be ahead. As the offseason officially began, everyone around the league expected the Warriors to make a massive move. The front office understood exactly where the franchise stood. Stephen Curry was still performing at an elite level, but his championship window wasn't going to stay open forever. If Golden State wanted another title, they couldn't afford to waste another year. That urgency pushed the organization into one of the most aggressive of seasons in recent memory. Behind the scenes, the Warriors explored nearly every possible avenue to improve the roster. Trade discussions, free agent meetings, and salary cap calculations became daily priorities. The goal wasn't simply adding another role play, it was finding another superstar capable of sharing the burden with Curry. The franchise believed that pairing another elite talent with Curry could completely change its future. For weeks, rumors connected Golden State to several high-profile players, and fans waited for the blockbuster move that never came. Unfortunately, reality proved far more difficult than expectation. One by one, the biggest opportunities disappeared. Whether it was because another team offered a better package, players preferred different destinations, or financial restrictions became too complicated, Golden State watched every major possibility slip away. By the end of free agency, the Warriors had accomplished very little compared to the rest of the Western Conference. While rival teams became younger, faster, and deeper, Golden State entered another season depending almost entirely on the same veteran core that had already struggled with injuries. That creates a dangerous situation. Championship teams don't simply rely on talent, they rely on availability. The Warriors have enough talent to compete with almost anyone when healthy. The problem is that staying healthy has become the biggest challenge facing the organization. Stephen Curry continues to defy expectations every single season. Even in the later stages of his career, he remains one of the NBA's most dangerous offensive players. Defenses still build entire game plans around stopping him, yet he continues finding ways to dominate. But asking Curry to carry an aging roster for another OT-to-game season is becoming increasingly unrealistic. Every championship run demands sacrifice. Every playoff series requires fresh legs, and every additional minute placed on Curry's shoulders increases the risk of another injury. The Warriors know this. That's why the front office desperately searched for another star this summer. Not because Curry isn't enough, because no player, regardless of how great he is, can win championships alone. Another issue making life difficult for Golden State is its financial situation. Years of competing for championships have left the franchise with enormous contracts and very little flexibility. Building around expensive veteran players means there are fewer opportunities to improve the roster through free agency. Young talent is also becoming increasingly rare. Many of the promising players who could have represented the next generation of Warriors basketball are no longer with the organization. That leaves Golden State in an uncomfortable position. They're too experienced to begin a complete rebuild, but they're also running out of resources to significantly improve the current roster. It's one of the hardest situations any franchise can face. If they decide to rebuild, it likely means the end of the Stephen Curry era. If they continue chasing championships with the current core, they risk falling further behind younger contenders across the league. Neither option is easy. Meanwhile, the rest of the Western Conference isn't slowing down. Several rivals have continued adding elite talent while developing young stars already on their rosters. Teams that were once chasing Golden State have now become legitimate championship threats. Every season, the competition grows stronger. Every year, the margin for error becomes smaller. For the Warriors, there are no easy answers anymore. The next season could define the future of the franchise. If Golden State stays healthy, they still possess championship experience that few organizations can match. Curry remains capable of taking over playoff games. Draymond Green continues to provide leadership and defensive intensity. Steve Kerr remains one of basketball's most respected coaches. That championship DNA hasn't disappeared, but experience alone won't guarantee success. The Warriors need health. They need consistency. They need role players to exceed expectations. Most importantly, they need Stephen Curry to continue performing at an extraordinary level despite the physical demands of another long NBA season. That's an incredible amount to ask from one player. Yet Curry has spent his entire career proving doubters wrong. He transformed basketball. He built one of the greatest dynasties the league has ever seen. He changed the way teams value shooting forever. Now he faces perhaps the biggest challenge of his legendary career. Can he lead one final championship run before time finally catches up? That's the question every Warriors fan is asking, because dynasties don't usually end with dramatic announcements. They slowly fade away. One injury, one disappointing season, one missed opportunity at a time. Golden State is determined not to let that happen. The organization still believes another championship is possible. The players continue believing in each other. The coaching staff continues searching for adjustments, and Stephen Curry continues preparing like someone who has something left to prove. Whether that's enough to keep the dynasty alive remains to be seen. The upcoming season isn't just another year of Warriors basketball. It's a defining moment for one of the greatest franchises in NBA history. If Golden State can overcome the injuries, maximize its veteran experience, and rediscover the chemistry that once made it nearly unstoppable, another deep playoff run isn't impossible. But if the injuries return, if the roster can't keep pace with younger contenders, if age finally catches up to the championship core, then this season may be remembered as the moment the Warriors dynasty officially reached its final chapter. Regardless of what happens next, one thing is certain: Stephen Curry has already cemented his place among the greatest players the sport has ever seen. His legacy doesn't depend on winning another championship, but competitors like Curry are never satisfied with history alone. They chase one more banner, one more playoff run, one more unforgettable moment. The Warriors are hoping that moment is still waiting for them, because if it isn't, basketball may soon witness the emotional end of one of the most unforgettable dynasties the NBA has ever known.